What if I told you that one of the biggest, most intense debates in early Christianity, a debate that almost totally redefined Jesus, all boiled down to just one simple, logical question? Yeah, this was the puzzle, the big one at the heart of early Christianity. And the answer someone came up with? Wow. It was so elegant, so seemingly perfect, that it came this close to becoming the core belief for the entire faith. And that answer was called Arianism. Okay, so to really get why Arianism was so appealing, we first have to understand the problem it was trying to solve. See, early Christians had these two beliefs that were totally non-negotiable. First, their entire history, their entire faith was built on monotheism. There is only one God, period. But their scriptures, their own experiences, told them that Jesus, the Son, was also divine. And he was absolutely central to everything. So here's the challenge, right? How in the world do you hold both of those things as true at the very same time without it becoming a huge contradiction? And right into the middle of this huge theological tug of war steps this new idea. And for a lot of people, it seemed to just perfectly resolve all the tension. And that idea, of course, was Arianism. So what was Arianism exactly? Well, at its core, it said that Jesus, the Son, wasn't eternal in the same way the Father was. Instead, the idea was that the Father, before he created anything else at all, created the Son. So the Son was the absolute first and greatest creation, the most glorious, the most powerful being imaginable, and then through him, everything else was made. And you can totally see the appeal here, right? It creates this super clean, logical hierarchy. You've got the Father, who remains the one and only uncreated source. And then the Son's divinity is, well, it's derivative. It's granted to him by the Father. So this whole idea protects God's total uniqueness while still elevating Jesus way above all other creation. I mean, it's neat, it's tidy, it makes sense on the surface. But the question is, does this beautifully simple solution actually work? Does it hold up when you really start to poke at it? Well, when other theologians began to stress test this idea, they argued that some pretty critical flaws start to show up. Let's dig into 3 of them. So the main problems people had with Arianism really fall into 3 big categories: creation, worship, and salvation. All right, first up, the creation paradox. The argument here is that the Bible draws this one, absolute, uncrossable line. On one side, you have the uncreated creator. On the other side, you have, well, everything else, all of creation. Just 2 categories. That's it. No middle ground. And this is where things get really tricky for Arianism. See, it puts the Son firmly in the creation category. But the Bible also says that all of creation was made through the Son. So wait a minute. How can he be on both sides of that line at the same time? A creature who is also the creator of everything else? Logically, it doesn't add up. Okay, the second major hurdle for Arianism was this whole dilemma around worship. And the argument on this one is pretty straightforward. Throughout the scriptures, worship is reserved for God and God alone. I mean, you see created beings like angels actively refusing to be worshipped. It's presented as a hard and fast rule. But here's the problem. The Son is shown receiving worship time and time again. And there's never any correction. No one says, hey, stop that. So Arianism forces you into a really tough spot. You either have to argue that worship in this case is just some kind of lesser honor, or you have to admit that a creature is being worshipped. And that second option, it completely undermines the very monotheism that Arianism was supposedly trying to protect in the first place. And that brings us to the third big problem, the salvation gap. Now, this argument sees salvation as way more than just being forgiven for your sins. It's really about bridging this infinite chasm between us, finite human beings, and the infinite divine source of all life, which is God. So here's the core of the issue. A created go-between, no matter how powerful or glorious, is still, well, finite. He doesn't have that divine life in himself. It was given to him. So the question becomes, how can a being give something he doesn't actually possess innately? How can he give eternal, uncreated life? The critics of Arianism basically said, he can't. It's impossible. So when you add up all these arguments, the problems with creation, worship, and salvation, what's the final verdict on this supposedly elegant solution? Well, the verdict was pretty damning. While Arianism tried to solve one big mystery, it ended up creating a whole chain reaction of new and arguably bigger problems. In its attempt to make Jesus' identity simple and logical, it actually destabilized the core ideas of creation, worship, and even the very nature of salvation. So, in the end, this elegant solution turned out to be a really fragile one. It's like by trying to pull on this one single thread, the identity of Jesus, to make everything neat and tidy, its critics argued that Arianism accidentally unraveled the whole theological sweater it was trying to fix. And all of this leaves us with a pretty provocative thought, doesn't it? When we're faced with any kind of profound mystery, something that really stretches our minds, is a simple, elegant error actually better than a complicated, difficult truth?